Hello and welcome to my Tamiya Falcon modification video, people. Modification. So this is the motor cover. The one on the right is the prototype one, which works very nicely actually. This does work very nicely. It fits the gearbox, fits the motor, but it had issues. No mounting location for the spur gear cover. So I integrated a hole into the next variant of motor cover. I integrated some ventilation as well. So it's a few prototypes down the line, but I think we're getting somewhere with the gearbox and the motor cover. I think there's a few more legs in the motor cover. I think I need to put some more ventilation in. But I think we're there. But the other thing is, it's these mounting screws. These mounting screws are small, and I think I might be using some thread inserts. They are very small though, 2mm. Very small, pesky little inserts. But I think it's possible. I think I can do it. The 3mm thread inserts are quite straightforward. I've done some of those. So I've been practicing with the 3mm ones. But the 2mm thread inserts, they are tiny, people. Tiny. But I think it will be beneficial to the build. Because you've got to remember, 3D printed parts don't like the screws to be taken in and out multiple times. You can only get away with a few times, you see. So this is my idea with thread inserts. I think that'll work quite nicely. I mean, this gearbox is printed with Sunlu filament, PLA plus. We've got the yellow, obviously, and the black. Not the midnight black, which is blue. Anyway, spur gear cover. I'm going to do this yellow. I need to build one because, see, look, that is the screw hole integration. Marvellous. Comes together quite nicely. And when this is fitted, it makes it all one solid part. So when I get to design, I've not done it yet, obviously. When I get to designing my spur gear cover, I've got to make sure it encases the whole spur gear, because underneath, which I'm not showing you, you can see the spur gear, because this Schumacher one doesn't, because normally it mounts onto the chassis of the Schumacher, so it doesn't necessarily need to be completely encased, you see. So when I redesign this, I've got to make sure the underside is not open to the elements, because I've tried this and it does suck up debris. So I need to bear that in mind in my next stage of design. But anyway, that is the gearbox. Technically it's complete. That is the gearbox complete. This is me mounting said gearbox onto the original Falcon chassis, which was very important in the design, because we want to keep this design in, let's just say I want the Falcon to look like a Falcon, not like some sort of monstrosity that, oh, this is a Falcon. I want it to look like a Falcon. So countersunk screws for the lower plate. I think these work really nice. They do fit nice. I managed to get them. Oh, look at that, beautiful. Very proud of those countersunk screws. So let's move on to the top, where I'm using these gearbox mounting holes, and I'm using the battery bracket holes. See, the original 86 one doesn't use the gearbox mounting holes. But because I want... Ooh, look at that bling, people. Look at that bling. I thought I'd do something different while I was doing this modification. So let's just recap that, sorry. I wanted to use the gearbox mounting holes, and I wanted to use the battery bracket holes. But then I thought, shall I redesign the top of the gearbox to go into the battery bracket holes, or put a bit of bling and a bit of structure onto the chassis and make this bracket look like the battery bracket retainer. And then I thought, ooh, if I use the holes for the gearbox and the holes for the bracket, I can tie it all together. This was my thinking, people. I could tie this together quite nicely. So the gearbox is going to be very, very secure. And the rear of the Falcon chassis is quite solid. And I think, my thinking, well, until we test it properly on some jumps and stuff, I think this is going to be pretty solid. I don't know. I could be wrong. So this is my thinking. This is I wanted to use the original battery bracket idea. So I'm still making it look like a Falcon, you see. And that is solid, people. That is solid. So anyway, that's on. Rear arms. PLA Plus again. Redesigned completely to fit my drive shafts. I had to, I had to extend the wheel hub to, I had to extend this wheel hub to manage to get the Schumacher Cougar 2 Works drive shaft to fit comfortably. And then I thought, I need the bearings. So I had to redesign the hub to fit the bearings, because originally I was using the Traxxas axle, stub axle, and it did actually fit onto the Schumacher drive shaft very nicely. And then that stub axle did actually fit the Tamiya bearing. And then I had a bit of an epiphany. I thought, why don't I just get rid of the Traxxas stub axle, get rid of the Tamiya bearings, keep the Schumacher drive shaft as it should be, then I won't have to mess about. Well, I did. I had to redesign the stub axle, or the hub, sorry. But it works quite nicely. Bearings go in nicely. I mean, I've tried to keep the original Falcon dimensions. So I want this to look like a Falcon rear axle. And I think it does. I think I've achieved that. I've moved the suspension mount slightly backwards to move it out the way of the drive shaft. Plus it gives a different angle for the suspension. But that bearing fits in quite nicely. So I decided to push the bearing in quite, because it does work quite nicely, bearing pushing. It would be nice to have like a bearing press, but a ratchet and a spanner work quite nicely. So anyway, like I was saying, I moved the suspension mount slightly backwards. I wanted it directly above the center of the hub, but it wasn't working with me. It didn't want to play at all, because the drive shaft and the angle of the suspension mount, where it had to come across, wasn't working. It wasn't playing with me, people. It wasn't playing with me. But we got there in the end. We got there in the end. I've got some new ideas of how to be able to adjust the height of the Falcon, ride height, and needs to be adjustable because the Falcon standard ride height is off-road rally type height. It is very, very high. So I want to reduce the ride height by about 30 mil. 30 millimeters is quite a lot. And it's quite difficult to do that with the standard rear arms. So got to remember, my whole project is keeping the Falcon. I want it to look like a Falcon. That is my brief. That is the first line of my brief. Tamiya Falcon from 1986 needs to look the same in 2026. Similar, sorry, not the same. It's going to look very, very, very similar. It's not going to look identical because that don't work because you just have a 1986 Falcon. So I'm going to stick with the swing arms. I was looking at, is it the Blitzer Beetle? I was looking at that, how the rear arms mount onto the gearbox. So I think after my Falcon project, I might do a Blitzer Beetle project, which will be very easy. It'd be a lot easier to do a Blitzer Beetle than it is doing the Falcon. But that's project number 2. Many more to go yet, many more to go. So look at that. That's marvellous, people, marvellous. And that, I haven't even cleaned any prints. I took it off my bed, I pulled it off, stuck the bearing in, and that fits nice. Look at that. That is marvellous, marvellous. And let's go on to number 2. I also think that I can introduce a little bit of toe, because the Falcon, unfortunately, but the Blitzer Beetle, you can adjust the camber. That is impossible with a Falcon, but I might be able to introduce some toe. I reckon I could toe it in. I don't think anyone will notice how I've done it, because I think I can introduce some toe with the rear block where the swing arm mounts. I think if I can modify the mounting block for the swing arm, because there's lots of tolerance with the drive shaft. It can come out a lot if it wants to. So I reckon where this screw is going in now, this is where the swing arm mounts. If I redesign this block where I'm screwing this screw into now, I think I can introduce certain amount of toeing in, and that will make a big difference with how stable the car is. I don't think I can do any camber because I'll have to redesign the hub. That could be possible, but yeah, I've just had an idea how I could do that. But first thing is rear wheels towing in. That is the first stage of the next redesign. But that's it then, people. Look at that. That is rear arms fitted. Schumacher Cougar 2 works. Drive shafts. Look at them. Marvellous. Absolutely marvellous. That is redesigned hubs with the bearings. That is drive shafts. And that's it. And with the redesign of the hub, taking the Schumacher axle or stub axle, you can fit Schumacher wheels. And the other thing is, you can fit a hex adapter onto the Schumacher hub as well. So, see, look, this is what I'm thinking. I can introduce some toe quite easily, people. Towing in, marvellous. And like I was saying, if I want to fit any different wheels now, see, before with the Traxxas stub axle, it was difficult. You had to fit hex wheels only. Now I can fit Schumacher cancellation wheels, and I can fit any hex wheel on the market. So Blitzer Beetle, here we come. So that's it then, people. Look at that, done. That is one gearbox mounted onto a Falcon chassis. And I think from a distance, I'm not blowing my own trumpet or anything, but I think from a distance, people will not notice that this has been custom built. They'll look at it thinking, oh, that's a nice Falcon. But then they'll walk up to it and go, that's not a Falcon. Look at that. Marvellous, people. I'm very, very happy with that. And I've even got shocker droop. Look at that. The shockers do. There is actually droop. Wow. And that's without a battery. I'm actually very pleased with that. See, this is what I mean about the shock absorber mounting position. That is not random. That is there for a reason. See, camber would be nice. Camber would be nice. But I can definitely put some toe in there. That's it then, people. That we're done. Thank you very much for watching, and later.